Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. Guys, today I'm going to be talking to you guys about one of the most polarizing players in all of fantasy football, and that is Travis Kelce. Now, there are pros and cons to drafting Travis Kelce this year, okay? And so I'm going to be going over kind of both sides of the argument on whether or not you should take him in the first round. Now, there are very good reasons to take him in the first round and very good reasons not to take him in the first round. And I will tell y'all this. I am absolutely leaning more one way than the other. But I'm not going to get into that until the end of the video. I'm going to tell y'all which side I'm on and how I'm going to approach Travis Kelce going into the draft. But I'm going to spend the majority of this video just talking about the pros and cons and looking at it from both standpoints, okay? Because there's valid arguments on both ends. So I'm going to start with the pros on Travis Kelce. The first pro is that he has a reliable floor-ceiling combination. He's going to come out and, he pretty much never busts. It's almost impossible for him to bust in any given week in fantasy. And he also has the highest ceiling of any tight end in fantasy on a weekly basis as well. So he has by far and away, it's not even remotely close, by far and away the best floor-ceiling combination of any tight end in the league. Secondly, he has the best quarterback in the NFL throwing him the ball. This increases big playability because he has an awesome thrower of the ball throwing him the football. And he averages close to 10 targets a game. So for PPR formats, this is going to lead to absolute dominance naturally. On top of that, he can run after the catch. And more importantly than any of this probably is that he never gets hurt, right? The most important thing is fantasy is your guy actually being able to be on the field. This guy's extremely durable. He's missed very few games in his career. So to go along with all this dominance, the dude almost never misses time. And we're looking at a guy that led the league in receptions last year at the tight end position, led the league in touchdowns, led the league in receiving yards, yards after the catch, second in yards per route run, all at the tight end position. I mean, this is just absolute dominance for Travis Kelce. We know how good this guy is. He's probably the best tight end of all time, definitely for fantasy anyway. And so there's a lot of good reasons to draft Travis Kelce, and that's why he's a first-round pick. So if you want to take him in the first round, I don't blame you. This dude is pretty incredible. But I'm going to move over to the cons, the bad side of drafting Travis Kelce. And the first one is, you have to take him in the first round, right? Which means that you're not going to get to take a wide receiver or a running back in the first round, which I always recommend. Secondly is he is going to be 34 this season. So you're taking a player in the first round that's going to be 34 years old. There's going to come a time where Travis Kelce hits that age cliff and just totally falls off. I'm not saying it's going to be this year or next year even or anything like that, but it is going to happen. Father Time's undefeated. There's going to come a time where Travis Kelce steps on the field and he just doesn't look like the young Travis Kelce anymore. And there's a chance that happens this year. So we've got to keep that in mind. And another thing I don't really like about taking Travis Kelce in the first round is that when you come over to your second round picks, right, the best available players are running backs, right? The middle of the second round, the best available players are going to be Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker, and Travis Etienne. I've been doing tons of these mock drafts and starting my team with Travis Kelce to see what this ends up like. And in the second round, my best option ends up being a running back. So I'm starting my team with a tight end and a running back, meaning that I'm neglecting the most important position in fantasy now, which is wide receiver in the first two rounds. Because wide receiver is the most important position in fantasy now due to the increased target share for wide receivers. So, coming out and not taking a wide receiver, the most valuable position in fantasy, with both of my first two picks is just not a very good idea in my opinion. And, when you look at it, if you plan on doing like some sort of zero RB strategy with Travis Kelce, think about this. Say you take Travis Kelce with the 5th, 6th, or 7th pick overall in the draft. When it comes back around to your second pick, there's a very good chance that Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Tyreek Hill are all off the board. So you're now trying to implement a zero RB draft strategy and potentially starting your team that is a zero RB team without a legitimate tier 1 wide receiver one, right? Because those are like the 7 tier 1 wide receivers, right? After that, you got the high end twos like Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown, right? And so you're probably going to be in a situation where you have to start your zero RB team with a high-end wide receiver 2 or best case scenario, low-end wide receiver 1. So that's a little bit of a problem. Now, everybody knows how big I am on Amon-Ra St. Brown this year. I think he could be the best wide receiver in all of fantasy. I think that the possibility is there, is what I'm saying. So if you're that confident in Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe you can implement this strategy, but who knows? He might get taken for all you know, because everyone is hammering the wide receiver button now because it's a much more valuable position. So the fact of the matter is it leaves you pretty much crippled for the rest of the draft because in the second round, you're having to start your 0 RB team with a high-end wide receiver 2 instead of a wide receiver 1. So that's already a terrible start to your draft. Or you're going tight end and running back, and you're neglecting the most important position in fantasy with your first 2 picks by starting with a tight end and a running back. So I think y'all can kind of see where I'm kind of going with this. As much as I love Travis Kelce as a player and as a fantasy weapon, I think he's one of the biggest difference-making players in all of fantasy football. The problem is it just cripples you for the rest of the draft. You're going to spend the rest of your draft hammering the wide receiver and running back button, and this is going to take away your ability to draft a quarterback early if that's something you want to do as well. So it just leaves you in a really tough situation where you're trying to make up for the fact that you didn't take a running back or a wide receiver in round 1 for the rest of the entire draft, and it's going to mess up your strategy for the rest of the entire draft. So as good as Travis Kelce is, I'm not willing to sort of sacrifice the efficiency of the rest of my draft just to take him in round 1. I'd rather just take a running back or a wide receiver. It's going to end up being much better for you guys, I promise. All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning into the video. I will catch you later.